Right, we are going to talk about rotations. So if we look at the left here, we have a picture of a possible rotation. If you notice, my triangle here on the right is my pre-image, it's my original, A, B, C. This point right here is the point of rotation. So this shape rotates around this point and gets us this triangle. So that's an example of what a rotation may look like. So if we look at the notes, a rotation around a fixed point called the center of rotation. A figure or the figure rotates at a specific degree and direction. There are two pieces of information that you're going to get from the problem when you're rotating. You'll be told what degree and what direction. Okay. Now this next section talks about the rules, and there are some rules that you can follow for rotations. The only thing is those rules can be hard to remember, and it's not necessary. Okay, so between being hard to remember and there's a way to rotate without remembering rules, I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay? Because sometimes we get caught up in these rules. Okay, so instead of writing some rules down here, we're going to put a little information that actually will be helpful as you're working. 90 degrees. So we're going to focus more on what these rotations look like. Okay, so 90 degrees. If I look at a circle, we know a circle is 360 degrees. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this circle up into quarters. Okay. And a quarter turn is 90 degrees. Half turn is 180 degrees, half of 360. 3/4 turn is 270 degrees. Okay. Clockwise, counterclockwise. Okay. If you have a clock, okay, to the right is clockwise. To the left is counter clockwise. So if you're ever confused about the clockwise or counterclockwise, you look at a clock. Okay, so those are two review pieces of information that we're going to need to know for the next part here. Okay, so 90 degrees. 90 degrees, if you're told to rotate 90 degrees, it's going to be 1/4 turn. Okay. And we know clockwise is to the left, counterclockwise is to the left, clockwise is to the right. Okay. 180 degrees is 1/2 turn. And we can actually say counter is to the left, clockwise is to the right. Counter is to the left, clockwise is to the right. 270 is 3/4 turn. Counterclockwise to the left, clockwise to the right. So what you'll notice with our shapes, with my 90 degrees, with the quarter turn, it moves over one quadrant. Because it's counter, we move to the left. For 180, it actually moves two quadrants, 1/2. right? 270, it moves over 3 quadrants. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started on a problem. Number 1. So for number 1, it says triangle ABC with vertices A, B, and C, 90 degrees counterclockwise. So let's plot our points. Let me make sure I'm doing this correctly this time. So 2, 7 is A, B is 6, 5, and C is 4, 1. Don't forget to label each point. It's definitely important now because things start looking kind of crazy as we rotate. Okay. So there's our ABC. Now here's the deal with rotating. Like I said at the beginning, there are rules that you can follow. Okay. The only thing is, there's a rule for 90 degrees, a rule for 180, and a rule for 270. Clockwise. Then there's a rule for each counterclockwise. That's 6 rules. Crazy. Here's how we're going to handle this. Okay. We're going to use tracing paper. All right. Now, if you don't have tracing paper, I'm going to show you some other things that you can do as we work these problems out. But what we're going to do with our tracing paper is first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plot my points. One side of the tracing paper is always slippery. Okay. I'm going to plot my points. You don't even have to connect your dots. Okay, you don't have to make the actual triangle. The most important thing is that we plot our points and we label the points. Okay, then what we're going to do is I'm going to mark my center. Okay, now you don't want to use just the dot. You'll see why in a minute. I always do the little cross of the X and Y axis here. And what we're going to do is you're going to put your pencil in the middle and push down. And we're going to take the tracing paper and you're going to actually rotate it in whatever direction your problem tells you to go. Okay. If we look at ours, it says 90 degrees counterclockwise. So I'm going to take a quarter turn and I'm going to go to the left because we're doing counterclockwise. Okay, definitely want to write these notes down just for yourself because sometimes if you don't, you come back over here and you're plotting your points and then you're forgetting where you're supposed to go and you're like, well, I think I remember, or whatever. This is a really good way of putting out on paper what you're going to do, get your plan. Okay, so we're going to do a quarter turn to the left. So now let's line this back up, put my pencil in the middle. We're going to the left, a quarter turn. Now, a couple different things that we can do. You can remember that the quarter turn, we move 1 quadrant. I can't always trust myself to remember everything. So I just literally will go 1/4 of the circle. I know I've turned enough when my coordinates line up, or my X and Y axis little cross shows up. So this shows me where my new B is, my new C is, and my new A. My A prime, B prime, C prime. Where you handle it from here is up to you. Some people will kind of pull this back and plot their points. Okay, some people like to, dig in and make marks that they can see through. What I usually do, make myself room, is I usually go through, let me move this off. Okay, I didn't think this one through. I usually write the ordered pairs while I have them here, and then I go back and plot them. So my C prime is going to be at -1, 4. And then I go double check, -1, 4, C prime. And I go back and say, okay, B is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -5 up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. B prime. And as I'm going back, I'm double checking that I plotted them in the right place. A prime is going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up 2. And I can actually see the little dents in my paper, which is pretty cool. Okay. There's my rotation. All right. I'm going to rip my tracing paper because we're not going to use one full sheet for each problem. We're going to break this sheet up. I want to be wasteful. Okay, so number 3, trapezoid JKLM, 270 degrees counterclockwise. So 270 degrees is going to be 3/4 of a turn. Counterclockwise is to the left. So let's plot our points. J is 3, 4. K is 6, 4. L is 8, 1. And M is 1, 1. Connect our points. Okay. And then we'll take our tracing paper. I'm going to mark my vertices and label them. I'm going to mark my origin. Put my pen in the middle. 270 is 3/4 of a turn. 1, 2. Remember, as you're seeing this, see my cross lines up as I'm counting. And 3. Now, I don't flip this over or do anything like that. I'm just literally rotating it. Okay. So now if I look here, I'm going to write down my ordered pairs. So M, my M prime, my new M is at 1, -1. My new J is at 1, 2, 3, 4, -3. My new K is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, -6, and L is at 1, -8. Oops. Oh goodness. Okay, hold on, let me fix this. M is 1, -1. J is 4, -3. K, I am correct on. And then L is 1, -8. Okay. Now, if you want to go through and just do one at a time, you could do what I'm doing here, and I'm just remembering where they go. You run a risk at being wrong and having to erase, but this isn't really that bad of a process here. Okay. And then we connect our points. Again, don't forget to label everything. Label your prime with the little apostrophe. Make sure you put these in correctly. Put them in correctly. And that's it. Turn the page over and look up at number 5. 5 is the same type of situation that we did on 3. get you started. So 270 counterclockwise, so that's 3/4 of a turn to the left. Let's plot our points. C, -5, 5. D is -1, 7. E, -3, 3. And F is -7, 1. Now, one thing you can double check, which I didn't when I made mistakes earlier, is double check that your shape matches the description. And this is a rhombus. So that's a good thing. And we'll take our paper. I'm actually going to cut this one into quarters. You could always just take the one sheet and just spread everything out 4 ways, but there, we'll do this. Okay. So now I'm going to mark my points. Mark my origin. 270 counterclockwise is going to be 3/4 of a turn to the left. There's 1, 2, 3/4. Okay, remember, quarters and quadrants, they all come from the same word. So if we go 3/4 of a turn, that means we're going 3 quadrants. So this shape has to go through 1, 2, 3 quadrants. Oops. We have to go through 3 quadrants to get where we need to be. Okay. So I want you to take a second. The video will pause, and I want you to see if you can get the correct answer. All right, so check your answer compared to mine. See how you did. All right, so let's look at 7. 7 has a parallelogram, and they give us the vertices, but all we see for our rotation is 180. If the words counterclockwise are not written, then you can assume it's going to be clockwise. So this is 1/2 turn to the right. So again, if they don't tell you how to turn it, you can assume it's clockwise. 1, 7. 8, 5 is N. O is 4, 2. And P is -3, 4. And this does look like a parallelogram. So I'm good here. Let's take my paper. Let me mark my origin. Let me label my points. Okay. Now this one may appear to be a little tricky because our shape travels over a quadrant. But because of our process here, we're not going to have to worry about that because with 180, it's a half turn around a circle. So here's a 1/4 turn, half turn. So I don't have to worry about things crossing over because as long as I go through the process of my rotation, I know I'll be correct. So let's go ahead and get our points here. So P is going to be 1, 2, 3, -4. M is -1, -7. O is negative 4, 2. N is negative 8, negative 5. And on this time, I'm actually going to just dig in here so that when I take this away, I think you can see it on the video, I have my points here. Okay. Now, the thing is, I don't remember which points are which, like what letters, and that does matter. It is important, okay, because especially right now, the way this looks, and this is why labels are so important. Right now, this appears that it could be a reflection, it could be a translation, but it's a rotation. And the reason we can tell that is because once I mark, and I'm going to look here, and because this was the direction, I know that this is N prime and O prime. Once I look at my labels, okay, the M might be across as if it's a mirror image, but my P's aren't, like, things don't match up like a translation or a reflection. So because everything is turned, I know it's a rotation. Now, one other thing I want to show you is if you don't have tracing paper, you get home, you don't have any more, you run out, whatever the case may be, I want to show you kind of a backup plan of how you can handle your rotations. Because the worst thing is for me to give you a process without rules, and then you don't have the tools you need for the process. So what you can do is take a piece of paper, and you're going to rip a hunk of paper. Okay, so just any old hunk of paper, we're going to rip it. And what you're going to do is, let's say we want to rotate P. Okay, I want to rotate P. So what I'm going to do is, you can tell I can't really see through this paper. I mean, I kind of can, but not enough to make sure I'm accurate. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put my corner at P, and then I can barely see my X and Y coordinate. That you've got to be able to see through, okay? But if I look here, I can even do this if I needed to. Okay, see how I can take from my axis and copy it? Okay. Then we put my pen in the middle, and we're going to do the same process that we did with the tracing paper. I'm going to do 1/4 turn, and I know I've turned right if I line everything up, right? And then 1 more 1/4 turn, and I know I'm good if I line everything up. Now I know this is, I can label that P just so I don't forget. And then now I see, well, this is where my P will end up. And what's kind of nice about this method is you can just plot your point and label as you go. Okay. So the next thing I would do is I would go find M. Okay. So here's M. Now I'm on M. I'm going to line this guy up. And I'm going to draw my origin. Okay. And again, this is a backup plan. Hopefully you have tracing paper. If not, Post-it notes are usually pretty thin, like the yellow ones. Notebook paper is usually pretty thin. So I'm going to put my pen here. And remember, we're 180 degrees, so it's half a turn. So I'm going to go, and when I say half a turn, I mean around a circle. It's like if you do tricks, a 180 is halfway around a full circle. So there's my half turn. Make sure everything lines up. The corner of my paper becomes M prime. Okay. So again, that's another option of a backup plan if you're missing the points. And if this starts getting confusing because I have too much happening here, then take your paper and cut it with scissors so that you have good edges, and each corner would be a different point. Or get a new sheet, or rip off a hunk and say, okay, I'm going to do O. Okay, let me line everything up. And that's going to be O. Put my pen, turn it once, turn it twice till everything lines up. And look at that. There's O right in the corner. O prime. Again, that's a backup plan. Hopefully you have tracing paper. If you don't, this is a way you can do that. And that's it.